G'day guys, it's Nick here, and we are up here in Gosford in New South Wales at the Australian Reptile Park. Now this place has to be one of the most well-known private wildlife parks in Australia. So we'll head on in, we'll have a bit of a look around, check out the Australian Reptile Park. Stick around guys. Now if we're going to come to the Reptile Park, we of course have to come and check out the Reptile House. And this has to be the coolest entrance to a reptile house I have ever seen. So let's pop in, have a look at some cool reptiles from all over the world. So this guy is a Solomon Islands skink, and he is the biggest species of skink on the planet. You can think of him as like a giant arboreal blue tongue lizard. These guys get 72 centimeters long, just over 2 feet, half of its tail, but they live out the Solomon Islands, live in the trees, they're very arboreal. These guys eat vegetation, but yeah, pretty cool. Biggest skink on Earth. Now, every Australian, possibly every person in the world, has heard of the king brown snake or the mulga snake. A lot of people don't realise there's actually a couple of species of what we call pygmy mulga snakes, and this guy here is one of them. In fact, this particular species actually carries the scientific name of Weigelii in honour of John Weigel, who's actually one of the owners of this reptile park, because it was discovered on a field trip by the guys here at the reptile park. So yeah, the king brown, one of the most famous snakes in the country, but there is pygmy king brown snakes as well. Now this has to be the coolest set of lizard pits I have ever seen. They've got water dragons in some, heath monitors in some. They've even got red bellies and water dragons living together. And check it out, the rock work and stuff. It's amazing. It looks like a big hunk of nature. Yeah, maybe if we win the lottery, we'll build some of these at home. But yeah, they are cool. Unfortunately, it's raining, so everything's basically asleep and hiding under the boxes. But yeah, very, very cool lizard enclosures. But one of my favourite lizards has to be lace monitors. They've got a couple of them here. These guys are cool. They're the second biggest lizard in the country. They get 2 meters long from time to time, but they're also found further south than any other monitor lizard in the world. So while it's a cold, rainy day, the other reptiles that are outside are all hiding under their rocks and their lights. These guys are basking in the tiny bit of sun that they're getting out here. So yeah, really cool. Lace monitors. So these guys are yellow-footed Rockwallabies, who once upon a time were basically on the brink of extinction. Now while they're still in trouble today, thanks to captive breeding efforts, these guys have came back in numbers and not only taken themselves away from the brink, but today they're even being used as surrogate mothers for other endangered species of rockwallaby like brush-tailed rockwallabies and things like this. So yeah, conservation in captivity in action. So here we've got more wallabies, and again, these aren't any ordinary wallabies. These guys are Palmer wallabies. They're a tiny little wallaby species. Now, these guys were actually believed to be extinct up until the 1960s or so. In the 18 and 1900s, these guys were hunted extensively for their pelts, their fur, their leather, and we thought they were extinct for decades until they were rediscovered in the 1960s. Now they're being bred in captivity, and hopefully there's going to be one less animal that we lose here in Australia. These guys are grey-headed flying foxes. Now we're lucky enough to have a couple of them at home, but I hope my guys at home don't see this, Avery. It's awesome. Unfortunately, this species is actually considered a threatened species, just like a lot of the things here. Now, this surprises a lot of people because these guys live in huge camps, up to 50,000 animals. But historically, they would have been found in camps of the hundreds and thousands. So yeah, an animal can still be common, but if it's in less numbers than would be naturally the case, it can still qualify as being threatened or even endangered. Now, one of the other really cool projects that they're doing here at the Australian Reptile Park is the breeding of endangered turtles. They've got a couple of species, but behind we've got Bell's River turtles, and on the other side, we've got Manning River turtles. Now, turtles, believe it or not, are actually some of the most endangered animals on the planet. Now, yes, there is turtles who are doing just fine, but as a collective group, turtles face all kinds of threats. Overseas, they're being used as a food source, they're losing habitat, there's water pollution, all sorts of things. But thankfully, these guys are breeding a couple of endangered species here in Australia, local to New South Wales, and one day, these guys might make it back out into the wild and contribute to wild populations. And of course, you can't have a zoo here in Australia without koalas. They've got a bunch of koalas here, and it's amazing how much smaller these are than the koalas we get back home. Koalas actually get bigger the further south you move, so our koalas are about twice the size of these guys up here. And then when I worked up in North Queensland, they're smaller than this. So as you get colder climates, they get bigger bodies, basically to hold in the temperature, better thermal mass. When you get further north, they want a small body volume, a lot of skin area, basically so that they can dissipate heat. So yeah, we've got one species of koala. Some people break them into northern and southern, but yeah, there's a lot of variation in size. But yeah, you want to see koalas, make sure you come on check out here. One of the coolest things about this place, to me anyway, is the little details. And one of the best ones is, as you walk around, most of the plants on the side of the tracks have name tags telling you what species they are. Now, plants, of course, to a lot of people are less exciting than animals. And it's fair enough, they don't move around, they don't interact. But without plants, we don't have animals. So it's all part of the puzzle. And highlighting that little bit of interest, a little bit of knowledge, hammers that message home. So yeah, it's not just about animals, it's about ecosystems, and plants are the start of our ecosystems. So one of the animals that really doesn't get enough attention on our channel is dingoes. Now, they're actually one of my favourite native Australian animals, one of the first things I ever started working with, and we're lucky enough to have one here at home. But this guy here is a cool one. So a lot of people don't realise that dingoes actually come in a bunch of different colours. They of course come in the ginger, the orange that everybody recognises, but you also get white dingoes and you get black and tan dingoes like this fella behind me here. You even get sables and gingers and things like this. Now a lot of people mistake them and think that they're crossbred with domestic or feral dogs, but it's not really true. While yeah, it can be the case sometimes, there is evidence of black and tan dingoes from the day that Europeans arrived here in Australia. So being dark in colour is not evidence of being a crossbred. We do get purebred black and tan and white and orange dingoes. So a big part of the reality of having wildlife parks, zoos, things like this is entertainment. They have to be interesting and engaging or people don't visit. And if they don't visit, they don't learn. But once you get people in the door, it's all about, or at least to me, what you do to get that message across once they're there. And these guys do it really well. We've got signs about, the importance of tree hollows with, little model animals up in the trees. One of the most important places in the ecosystem. The green, live, living tree, of course, is important, but the big dead one that everyone wants to cut down, it's the homes for everybody else. But yeah, getting people here, educating them as they wander around, you'll learn something without even knowing it. One animal that everybody always asks to see is quokkas. These guys are famous for the selfies over in Rottnest Island in West Australia. And while they are marsupials, they're macropods, along with kangaroos and wallabies, they are originally mistaken for rats. So the word Rottnest literally translates to rat's nest, because that's what the first Dutch explorers over in Western Australia thought they were. So yeah, not rats whatsoever. These guys are macropods, but they are pretty adorable nonetheless. So this has to be the highlight of the park. This is the Komodo Dragon exhibit. Now it's still in development, they're putting the final touch on, but it looks amazing. And we are actually going to get to go inside and meet the Komodos. We're going to do another video on it, so make sure you check it out, 10 things you didn't know about the Komodo Dragon. But yeah, let's go check out the world's biggest lizard. So what do I think of the Australian Reptile Park? I reckon you should come and check it out. It's a pretty cool park. It's not huge. They fit a lot into a very small area, but you can get around it in a couple of hours. The enclosures are immaculate. The animals are all looked after and healthy. They've got a good educational conservation message with everything they do. Really, I can't fault the place. With that being said, guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video going around the reptile park. We do have a couple of other videos coming out from our visit here and our trip up here in Sydney, so make sure you do stick about. I do want to shout out our Patreon supporters for making trips like this possible, the Hawkesbury Herpetological Society for helping me get up here as well. But if you haven't already, guys, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, all that kind of jargon. Check on back next week. There's more coming. See you next time.